Hi, this is Sal, and I'm going to be covering Philippians 1 in Growing in Grace devotionals. Now, I labeled this as a to have the mindset of Christ, which Paul wanted to instruct the Philippians about. And if you look at Philippians 1:12, it speaks of his journey. It says, "Now I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that what has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel." So let's get some context. The church of Philippi took great pride in the status of their city as a Roman colony, which was given to them in 42 BC by the then newly appointed Emperor Augustus after winning a major war in the area. So once they were given this, they were a small, insignificant farming community in Macedonia. So they got propelled in a level of status and privileges. And as a Roman colony, that's one of the things you benefit from. It also became an attractive place for people to settle in, especially retired Roman generals. They would just sojourn and stay on there. Now, there were two types of citizens in Philippi. They were the Roman citizen and not Roman citizens. And so that went along with the status and the privileges that they hung on to. But here comes Paul. And Paul comes through with the Holy Spirit, pointing out that to them that Jesus, a lowly carpenter, he was the example of humility. And that was flew in the face of opposite of what they were living in because they pretty much had it all. And now they were being, having to look at what they had and the surpluses that they had and the things that they took pride in. So one of the things that was happening with the followers of Jesus is that they were being oppressed regular basis and exposed to hostility. But one of the things they did not deter from advancing the gospel, but they did have pride in the prestigious status and the privileges that came with it. And that's what held them back a little bit. So Paul is prompted to write this letter. And he's doing this while he's in prison in Rome 10 years later, 10 years after he had visited them. We see that he begins to write the letter in Philippians to let them know how thankful he is for their partnership with him in the spreading of the gospel. The Philippians were his most consistent sponsors and supporters. He also wants them to make sure that they know that his situation, although in prison, has been used by God in a mighty way to advance the gospel. And so he reflects that in verses 12 through 18. He gives three examples. One is that where the whole palace guard knows that he is in chains for Christ. Another one is where many believers have grown more confident to preach without fear. That's in verse 14. And Paul imprisonment has even motivated his rivals to preach the gospel of Christ. That's in 15 through 17. He also reports his expectation of release from prison and looking forward to an upcoming visit to Philippi. However, his ultimate prayer is that he will have courage to honor Christ in his body, both in life and in his death. You can see that throughout from 19 through 26. So it's one way to apply this. How do we take what's being shared in this chapter? When you read Philippians chapter 1, verses 1 through 26 for yourself, thinking about how Paul models for them a different kind of attitude. And that's an attitude of humility as servanthood to Jesus and to those around them. So I ask that you pray that this is our attitude with those around us and that we come in contact with as we strive to advance the gospel. Have a great, blessed day.